Find a comfortable position to sit in. Pull your shoulders first forward, then up, and then back. Feel your spine straightening out, then your head coming light as a feather. In fact, light as a balloon, and floating somewhere up above the spine. Release all the worries and the stresses and all the bodily tensions on the next exhalation. And feel the solidity of gravity anchoring you to the chair, into the ground. So you feel both solid and dense, heavy and connected at the bottom, and light and weightless and effortless at the top of the head. Tune into the mind and see what sorts of plays are going on there. Is there a lot of dialogue? Is there a lot of visualizations, images? Maybe like stories, but also maybe just random colors and flashes of images that don't quite seem to make any sense. See if you can pay enough attention to those visual sensations, the visual images, the sounds in the mind, not in the external environment, but just the ones that are appearing in the mind. See if you can pay enough attention to them as something starts to shift around them. See if there's a felt experience that seems to become manifest when you pay absolute attention without getting caught in the stories that you might be seeing or hearing, but simply put your attention fully on those visual and auditory sensations in the mind. If you've gotten hooked into one of those images or verbalizations, Just keep coming back to the raw sensations themselves. And if you have successfully stayed with just those sensations, have they started to dissolve? Have you started to feel a sense of lightness, openness, disconnected joy, or peace? Doesn't seem to have any relationship to the situation that you're currently in. Is there perhaps even a moment or moments of silence, of stillness, where the images don't seem to be changing so much or at all, where you're no longer hearing your internal voice or other people's voices? Continue being with whatever is in the mind. And if there is nothing in the mind, continue being with that. Even if you're having some of the best ideas of your life, just let them go. You can make note of them for later. Remember to contemplate them and dig into them deeper when it's an appropriate time. For right now, we're making the commitment to just sitting and investigating what's here without going down any of the individual rabbit holes that might appear. If it seems difficult to not get caught up into the content of the visual images or the auditory thoughts, Just notice the quality of those images and those sounds. Notice the color, the texture, the volume, the brightness. Notice how quickly they come and disappear, how quickly they change. We often use different meditation tools to stay away from thought. So this can be tricky and new because we're going directly into them, using thoughts themselves as the object of meditation. Is this object of meditation the visual field in the mind or the auditory field in the mind? Whatever you're focusing on, is this a stable thing? Is this something which is located always in the same place? Or is it constantly moving, slightly maybe, but still moving from location to location in the realm of your experience? Where are they actually appearing? Are the visual images in front of your face? Do they seem to be in front of or behind the eyes? Does your internal monologue seem to be inside or outside of what you take to be your ears? So, does all of this imply that everything is happening inside of the head? If so, where is that head? Can you find its actual borders? How large is this space? Is it the size of what you take to be your physical head? Does it somehow seem to be expansive? Perhaps the size itself even keeps changing, like a room with no definable walls. It's always shrinking or expanding to make room for whatever is needed. Isn't that super interesting? Now, notice the quality of that space. Does it seem black and dense and empty? Does it seem bright and full? Does its characteristics tend to change depending on how you are interacting with it? And do you recognize that whether it's dark and empty or bright and full, those are both just visual thoughts? Neither of those are an actual experience of that space. They are mental representations that you're seeing in the visual field. Can you ever truly experience the space within the head or the space that you take to be within the head without some sort of visual representation of it? If it seems so, then in which of the five senses is it showing up? You might have a physical sensation that seems to be creating a sense of boundary. And you can notice how far out that extends. But see if while you are feeling that sensation, that you are also formulating a mental picture of it, even with the eyes closed. Are you filling in the totality of that space with the lightness or darkness or other colors seeping in through the eyelids? And are they creating the feeling of density or openness of this supposed empty space? Notice that even without images showing up that seem to be explicit storylines or obvious thoughts, there is still a background visualization that is happening all of the time. And it's creating a sense of stability to this moment. It gives the illusion that something isn't changing. But now I'd like for you to notice, with whatever visual imagery is showing up, or whatever internal auditory sounds are showing up, I would like for you to notice how thin these visual and auditory thoughts are. We give them so much attention, and we feel like when we are caught up in them, that they become an entire alternate world that we can inhabit. The voices sound very real and very much like they are our own. The visuals can take on a look that rivals the external reality in its vividness and its depth, with all of the actors that are playing out their roles in these stories. It can seem so real. But just like a movie can be projected onto a paper-thin screen, and all the depth of the mountains and the people and the oceans, everything is only an image showing up on a flat two-dimensional surface. I would like for you to notice just how thin the experience of your perceptual fields are. Whatever thought is arising right now, if it's a visual image, of something specific, or if it's simply the color or lack of color behind the closed eyes. I would like for you to notice how thin and insubstantial this image really is. And if you're not a visual thinker and you tend to live life thinking through sound, then you can do the same thing. Does this voice or do these other internal sounds seem very three-dimensional and substantial? Or can you hear them as just the wispy, vague, two-dimensional images in themselves of a sound? If you're having a hard time with this, notice if the visual images are they actually projected on top of that background visualization? Can you see around them or through them? Do you really have any sense that there is a true depth or substance to those images? And it's the same with the auditory field. Can you tell how dense or solid or substantial those thoughts, those sounds actually are? Or are they like a thin hologram you can hear or see right through? Does anything happen when you recognize the thinness and insubstantiality of these visual and auditory thoughts? Is there anything behind the thinness of these images and sounds as they appear? Are they appearing in the center of this boundless empty space, like a floating projection on nothing? And have you found that they tend to dissolve back into the nothingness almost as quickly as they appear if we don't get caught up in their stories and prolong their existence? This kind of recognition can be useful throughout the day to notice when you are caught up in thoughts while going about daily life, that these thoughts are insubstantial. These images are not real in the way that the external world seems to be real. The inner monologue is not your voice telling you something really important. It is a sound happening in this same borderless, boundless space that is not framed by the boundaries of the physical head. This isn't something you only need to experience seated in meditation. This is something that you can notice all throughout the day as you're walking around. That your experience of what you take to be the locality of the head and all of the images and sounds happening within it is actually not what you initially think it to be. You can neither define that you have a head nor where it is, nor exactly how big it is. And the experience of the inside of the head seems so much more vast than the image of the boundaries of the physical head. So see if you can recognize this at random times throughout your day. And when you are overtaken by thoughts, thinking about episodes from your past, or rehearsing moments from your possible future, or even just the random television nonsense that scrolls endlessly in the mind, just see if you can recognize that it's no more than a two-dimensional hologram being projected in the middle of absolute emptiness. And then notice, is there anyone who is recognizing this hologram projected in emptiness? Or is that viewer, that hearer, and that watcher, and that witness just one more appearance in this vast space? An appearance that is itself just as nebulous, just as ethereal, just as insubstantial as those visual and auditory imaginations, because that is all that it is. Stay here for as long as you would like, or eventually bring your attention back to the seat on the ground. Bring your attention back to the physicality of this body. Notice the visuals still coming in through the eyes, even with the lids closed. Feel the air entering the nose and inhabiting the lungs. Feel that sense of being both grounded and real, and also somewhat diaphanous, somewhat insubstantial in a way that feels light and open and full of possibility with absolutely no restrictions. And see if you can open your eyes and rise and enter the day from that space. Enjoy.